Printing. 3D printing has been around for a number of years now, but it's been growing in its popularity over the recent years, and definitely one of the trends to watch in 2016 and beyond. So what I want to talk about briefly is what's the adoption and the growing popularity of the 3D printing technologies were, and what's the potential impact on the intellectual property that we'll be able to see in the coming years. Adoption of the 3D printing has been growing fast, but it's still in its infancy. So there's about 232,000 units estimated to have been shipped in 2015, and that number is expected to grow to 5.6 million by 2019. So although those numbers might seem high and the growth rates are high, you need to, if you think about it, if you compare it to more day-to-day technologies like smartphones and the number of those smartphones shipped every year, these numbers are still pretty low. However, it's still worth watching it because the technology is being adopted by both enterprise and consumers, and the demand from both groups are driving this growth. It's most of the sales are from the low-cost entry-level printers that cost around under $2,500, and they are mainly purchased by schools or universities, libraries, so anything that is focused on research or trying or education, those kind of things. So the household purchases are still very small. Those that are capable of printing a counterfeit product, for example, will cost a lot more than $2,500, and they are of a lesser demand at the moment. However, businesses have been using this for quite some time. There were a few things that made the news in the past year. Some of the industries that have been adopting it a lot were cars and automotive, as well as airplanes. BMW has been apparently using 3D printing technology for about 25 years. So think about any little plastic knobs. Those are very easy to print, but technology is becoming more and more sophisticated. Also, FDA has recently approved drugs that are made using 3D printing technology, and some of the industry experts expect our pharmacies to be able to print drugs for us on demand, specified for our personal use and depending on our personal characteristics right there within the pharmacies, just within a few years. Dentistry is another one. It's a very popular way of using 3D technologies to print your replacement teeth or any dental things that you need to be done, because it can be done to a very specific precision, very easily, very quickly, and probably cheaper as well. What's interesting about all of these industries that have been adopting this is that they are all highly regulated. They all have to do with the personal health and safety. So a lot of it might be concerning to some of these industries as they are starting to print so that some of the fraud can occur within the 3D printing industry. So how can the 3D printing impact your IP, and how does it impact your IP protection? Well, it's definitely an emerging threat for all of the global brands, regardless of what you're trying to protect, a physical good or a digital good. When it comes to trademarks, 3D printing is gradually starting to replace traditional manufacturing. We will yet see whether or not it will, but in some instances it's already doing so. And consumers can actually start creating copies of products for their personal use. If I like a pair of sunglasses, I can scan that pair of sunglasses. If I have a printer at home, I can come home and print it, and it will be the exact replica of what my friend has. I don't need to go and purchase it. So that's a potential trademark abuse that could be very difficult for brand owners to control. What we see a lot of is actually abuse around copyright, as there are more and more companies and individuals will create products, create various ideas. It will become more difficult to distinguish as to who is actually owning a copyright for the design of a specific product. The CAD files are already available on P2P and pirate sites. We've seen a number of those. They're still very small numbers, but they are popping up, and they vary from small kind of figurines to very large, more expensive items as well. An additional complexity to 3D printing is the 3D scanning technology that is becoming increasingly available. You can buy a little dongle for your smartphone for just under $500 that will allow you to scan any object and produce a CAD file that you can then use to produce the exact replica of that product. What will become difficult is as these designs will get shared, what will become difficult is to identify the real copy from the fake copy, because these scanning technologies and 3D printing could actually produce a completely identical copy of your product. So what is it that you can actually do? Well, first of all, you really need to watch the space. There's still a lot of questions about how to best address it, but there are still definitely steps that can be taken today. If you have physical goods, and if you're a physical goods company and you're looking to protect your trademarks, you need to remember that no matter how the counterfeit product has been designed, it's still a counterfeit product. So your strategies that you employ today in looking through marketplaces, websites, whatever other areas that you are monitoring, you should continue doing that, because that's where those products will be available. There are also a number of specialized 3D printing stores that are popping up and that offer services to print as well as sell products made by 3D printing technologies. Monitoring those will be important. In addition, consider partnerships and licensing. If you have somebody who's using your intellectual property to produce something you haven't, it might be easier for you to license the rights and get royalties from that than trying to go after the creative genius of somebody to take the products down. And then looking more of a long term, not 2016, but maybe in a few years to come when this technology develops much further, I think goods will really stop crossing borders. It will be unnecessary for somebody to produce a product in, let's say, in China, where a lot of the counterfeit is coming from. What people will be doing is exchanging the CAD files and sending them over borders, and maybe a package of materials that are necessary to produce the product. You will not be seeing the actual physical goods coming into various countries. Where important to start, though, is with the copyright and really look at the digital assets. So whether or not you have a digital product or a physical product, anything that comes with 3D printing will start with a cut file. It will start with a blueprint, with a digital file that will explain to the printer how to print the physical product. So monitoring and detecting at that source, monitoring and finding that CAD file is what you want to do. The threats presented by 3D printers faced by digital media companies will be very similar to those that are faced by the goods companies as well. So addressing IP abuse, you want to focus on the digital goods and start looking through the P2P networks or any other popular pirated sites for availability of those CAD files and taking those down rather than looking for physical goods.